Hello everybody, I'm Jacinta Ackerman and this is Happy Souls. Have you ever been in a hard time in your life and just not knowing how to get out? Well, that was me for a long time. So I want to bring you people that have helped you on my journey or healers that I've noticed and I've seen and the phenomenal difference that they're making in this life. Today we have an amazing guy called Tommy Kende. Now, I don't really know Tommy, we've never really met, but I've been watching his journey going from a rock star to now a healer. Now, it's a phenomenal journey and it's just going to blow your mind. Now, in this interview, Tommy actually takes me through his intuitive nature about me. Now, this is very raw and open, and if you want to know more about me, this is what you should watch. So, welcome to Happy Souls. Hello everybody and welcome to Happy Souls. Today we have Tommy Kende. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Now, we don't really know each other. We've never really met before.
No.
We have a billion friends that know each other, but we've never really actually met. But I've watched you for a long time and I've watched your journey going from a rock star to now a healer.
I know.
And
Crazy.
It's fascinating,
Yes.
huh? And I haven't even asked you, like, this is the first time I've heard it.
Yeah.
I want to know about your story. Like, how did you start and how did you go from being on stage to becoming a healer? We want to know everything, all of the gory little details.
All the gory
everything.
details. Well, I mean, look, yeah, obviously my life has been, I've got to try a number of things and it's been a really cool ride. But yeah, I mean, look, ultimately I was spent most of my 20s and my 30s playing in bands, and I was sort of working in the corporate thing, and then I was, during the day I had this sales gig and I was doing really well, earning lots of money, and then at night I had this band and we just started getting better and better and better, and then ultimately we got this opportunity to support Nickelback at the Rod Laver Arena.
That's crazy.
I know, so we're like...
And what age were you?
At that point, I think I was 28.
Wow. That's
So
young,
I was getting there,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, if this music thing's going to work, it's going to happen now. And it did. So we supported Nickelback at Rod Laver. Like, I'm talking, 8,000-9,000 people. And I was just like, wow, that was...
And what was your biggest gig before that?
Biggest gig before that was probably the Dog and Piss at in the back of St Kilda. And yeah, so it was really, really cool. It was, so we went from, playing pubs for years and years and years to, hitting this stadium with Nickelback, and it was pretty cool. So, from that, one thing led to the next, and before we knew it, we signed a record deal and we moved over and we were living in Hollywood and, hanging out with guys like Tommy Lee and Slash and
Crazy.
going to parties with all the big names and stuff. We're just going, wow.
Rockstar. That's like a rock star life.
And it was really cool actually, like, living in the heart of Hollywood and just the, being on tour buses with all the shenanigans, like I'm talking all the stuff that you see, and people talk about that have actually done this stuff, it actually happens,
Wow.
And it was just, we pretty much toured the world for probably 2 or 3 years. And then the other 2 or 3 years we were in just Hollywood in LA, just trying to make ends meet. I mean, we're doing really cool things, like we're, touring with Slash, touring with Tommy Lee, we're playing on stadiums, traveling all over the world. But then we'd be back in LA at home and we'd go to the supermarket and we'd buy shopping and it came to like $80. And I'd be sitting there going, I really hope that this is going to make it. And there was times when, to come to $80 and the lady at the checkout was like, sorry, mate, your card didn't. I'm like, no.
Tommy. Oh, no.
So it was that sort of life, where you're hanging out with all these incredibly...
The Insta life, huh?
The Insta life. But then, underneath it all, you're literally this struggling rock and roll star, and your whole identity is just totally attached to, how people view you and how people see you.
Yeah.
And just thinking back to it, there was, all of us were just so lost. But at the same point, we were living our dream, like we were
that's
playing.
hard.
It was hard. So, And then, from the outside, no joke, it looked like we were absolutely killing it.
I watched you. It absolutely did.
And we were. And, Duke Cartel was doing really, really well. We were doing, we'd spend $150,000 on video clips and this and that and all this other stuff.
And then live on baked beans.
And live on baked beans, And people were like, how? And we were like, you know what? The reason is we'd go on tour, let's say we're going on a 3-month tour and we'd make, I don't know, 200 grand, right? We've got managers, agents, we've got roadies, we've got this, that, costs, whatever. So we'd come back and everyone would be paid except us, And so it was an incredible lifestyle. We were still young and we were lucky because we had, we had 5 of us and we're all brothers from back here. We're just like local Sandy boys, grew up Bayside and we just ended up in LA doing all this cool stuff, and we're just like,
living
wow.
a life.
Living
a fun life. No money, but living a life.
Yeah, and sex, drugs, rock and roll, the whole part of it, and it was amazing. So that lasted for probably about 5 years. And then when it just started coming to an end, so it's not like we broke up or anything, but we got to that point where we were like everyone was talking about us, right? We were like, Duke Cartel's the next cool thing. And, I'm talking in LA, we got one of our songs got to like number 41 on the US charts.
That's amazing.
And all this cool stuff was happening, but we were about to get there and then it just didn't. And now thinking back to it, I know the reason why is because none of us were ready, because as soon as we started tasting success, our identities got even more involved and we just became an ego. Yeah. And, I was like, no, it needs to be more about me. The singer was like, no, well, I'm the singer. And even though we stayed close and we're still best buddies, looking back to it, it was that's ultimately what I think.
You lost your passion and your ego.
Well, we lost that family vibe and it all became about what's in it for me, And then so ultimately that went sour. As in not sour, but it just ended, right? And
you were at the top of your game, like you were at the tipping point of like, I could seriously make this, or it's gonna break.
We were there, like the people in the industry that know shit, they were going, Duke Cartel's happening. Like, watch this band.
Wow, and then you just
self-imploded. Yeah. And then the singer started writing with a few other people and. He's now doing really, really well. He's over in the States still. And then with me, I had this choice in that moment. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like 34 and what am I going to do here? This, like staying here, I'm on a visa where the only thing I can do is play music. That's the only way I could earn money. And I'm like, okay, am I going to go home or am I going to stay? And it was so hard.
You didn't know anything else back then. Like music was your life.
Music was my life. Yeah. And I did do a little bit of corporate stuff before that, but music was my life. That was me. And then so I came home and it was Christmas of 2012. And I came home and it was Christmas and then I went to Mum's for Christmas or whatever. Mum gave me $150. It was $100 or $150 for Christmas. And no joke, I just started bawling my eyes out going, Mum, that's so much money, wow. And I was just like, wow. So,
and if people could have seen that, the rock star on TV, like making it, hanging out with all these celebrities crying because he's got $150.
And that's where I was. So I was down and out, 34, didn't have a house, didn't have a car, didn't have anything, didn't have a home, I had nothing. Other than that $150, And just on that, it was really cool because I went to a mate's house and he had this kettle, right? And we were just sort of making tea and he goes, oh, Tom, can you put the kettle on? And it was one of those kettles that you don't put on the burner, you just put on the thing and you push the thing down and it boils the water. Yep. But I grabbed it and put it on the stove and it melted the whole kettle.
Oh no, you owed him a kettle.
I know, and then the dude's like, man, that was like $100 kettle.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
So everything that could have happened was just crashing down on me. I'm just like, all right, cool. And then, so that's where I was when I moved back. And then I sort of started yoga back in LA. Like I was probably about 6 months into it. And
how often? Like just
I was
sporadically?
here and there, but I was doing it. Like I was sort of, and it was Kundalini yoga, and I had a few aha moments, like a few like aha moments, and then.
And did you just suppress them at the time?
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is.
Yeah, I'm not good.
Yeah, this must be last night's night out.
Yeah, I'm reliving it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, I came back, and then I actually was so lost here that somehow I was shuffled my way back to LA, and then went back there, and I was there for another 6 months, right, just to try something, and just nothing worked, and I was able to, get like little crappy jobs and whatever else, and just nothing worked, and I just kept separating myself. But in that 6 months that I went back to LA, the yoga place where I was practicing, which was Yoga West in LA, there's this guy there called Guru Singh, and he sort of became my mentor. And I went to one of his classes. He's like, "Are you a musician?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Bring your bass next time." I said, "Okay, cool."
I love that.
Yeah, so what I ended up,
healing.
so I ended up playing 3 times a week with him, playing bass, and he just gave me free yoga.
So while the yoga was on?
No. So we'd do yoga, and after yoga we'd have a jam.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. So yeah, basically through that I really got deep into my yoga practice, and to the point where I was doing, he challenged me to this 40-day sadhana, which is basically you get up at 4:30 a.m. You have a cold shower, you do an hour of Kundalini yoga and 1 hour of meditation and chanting.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's a lot. Like Kundalini and then chanting, that's a lot.
Yeah. So it was 2.5 hours from 4:30 a.m. till like 7, sorry.
And you were like, I'm so lost, I'm going to give this a go.
Give it a go.
Why
and
not?
I committed to 40 days, did it for 40 days, and then I ended up doing 181 days.
Did you?
Bam. Yeah. And then
now you're a real rock star, huh?
Yeah, so that sort of changed, that really turned me inside out.
Wow.
And then, from that, I ended up coming back home, and I went back into corporate, worked my way up the ladder, rebuilt myself financially.
Yeah.
And then I was practicing, I started moving into Vinyasa yoga and Hatha and stuff. And then...
did you still do Kundalini?
I did Kundalini just on my own.
Were you still getting up at 4:30?
No.
No, okay.
No. I did that for 181 days, and that was enough.
Yeah.
And then the company I was working for went into administration.
Yeah.
And I was like, the fuck am I going to do now? Like, do I go back to LA? I don't know what to do. And then I just went, you know what? I'm doing my yoga teacher training.
Good on you.
Yeah. And then did that, and then came home. And then after teacher training, I basically stayed in my house for 6 months drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. I literally went into full hibernation.
Did you? And just because you were practicing yoga? Or?
No, because after yoga teacher training, I was so lost and drained. I just like, and I actually thought, I'm not a yoga teacher. Like, that sucks. Like, yoga teachers are like chicks who are like 22 years old, franting around in front of a class, showing their titties and whatever else, And I'm like, I'm not a yoga teacher, And then after 6 months of hibernation, one of this girl that I knew really well, who was a yoga teacher, she's like, Tommy, you're going to be an amazing teacher. I'm going to get you into teaching.
Dudes.
To dudes.
Yeah, dudes.
So, did my teacher training, and then did Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3. And then now I've got like this thriving healing practice. I'm now doing intuitive coaching. I've got a podcast, and I've got, and I'm teaching yoga. And I'm still a totally normal dude. Like, I still drink, and I do all the normal stuff that people do and whatever, but it's just different. I'm just a yoga teacher and a healer. You
found your calling.
Yeah.
Now, my question to you is, you obviously have a lot of dudes as friends.
Yes.
What was their reaction to all of this?
Well, most of my best mates I've known since I was really young. So they've seen me come through the journey. And I've actually been quite lucky in that as like my core little group, most of us have actually transitioned together.
Amazing.
So I'm quite lucky in that sense. But there was the other people that, that knew me as Tommy, the guy in the band and the dreadlocks and whatever else. And
all your fans.
So with them, it's two things have happened. One is a lot of people have dropped off. And that happens when you expand and grow. It's not like you're better than anyone else. It's just that you don't vibrate.
On different paths.
Yeah, different paths. You don't vibrate in the same energy, and they go that way, I go that way.
And it's hard to deal with sometimes. But when you look at it like that, it's like, you know what, we're just not on the same path anymore, and that's okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so that happened, and what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, so my mates. So, yeah, we sort of grew together, and we do fun, like, stuff like go to Tony Robbins and do...
Have you been
to Tony
the
Robbins?
5-day one?
I did the UPW, which is Unleash the Power Within.
That's what I want to do. I've wanted to do it for 2 years.
Do you know what? It is awesome, but there's no but. It is awesome if you haven't done something like that before. But I find with that sort of work, it gets to a little bit of depth, which is great, you know. But then 99% of the time you leave UPW and you're like, yeah, I'm blah, 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 and then 2 weeks later you're just
yelling at everyone.
Yeah,
like,
I know. And then 2 weeks later you're just back into doing what you always wanted, like what you always
And
wanted.
if you hadn't done any sort of healing before going there, would you say that it's for people that have already started a journey, or is it just for people, the mainstream that's just starting?
Yeah, I reckon Tony Robbins, I've only done UPW, so I don't know about the other stuff, but with his initial course, Unleash the Power Within, I reckon it's a really good introduction into having that massive aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you get out of it. You're like, oh, maybe I am worthy.
Or maybe another world out there I'm not living. Yeah.
And then, but it always opens people up to following on their journey to other stuff, you know.
Everything helps.
Everything helps. Yeah. It's not like it doesn't help. Tony's incredible. He's amazing.
Yeah. So your mates went with you on that journey?
So I've got like a core group of maybe 5 or 6 mates, and we've all, like, still now we really support each other.
That's beautiful.
And we call each other on our shit on a daily basis.
That's amazing. Yeah. And that's something that guys are much better at doing than girls. Like you have this way, men, of being able to just go, you're being a dickhead and you need to pull your head in. Mm-hmm. But for a girl, if we said that to another girl, we'd be like, oh, no, I'm too sensitive. You hurt me. Don't say that.
I know.
It's great how guys can do that.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. So we pull ourselves up, and it's cool. Like, I'm lucky but ultimately as well, I take full responsibility for that. Yeah. As in having the courage or whatever to have those type of friends where it's a really, really deep core group where we call each other on our shit. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So your podcast is exactly this. Yeah. The Bullshit Podcast.
The Bullshit Machine. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I've got a podcast which is The Bullshit Machine, and that literally came to me in a dream. And I woke up one day, and I just dreamt this thing, and the words just came to me, The Bullshit Machine. I'm like, fuck, how cool is that? Because what I realised is that
it's true.
It's
best name.
Yeah, because our mind, most of it is filled with absolute bullshit. Like, it's just is. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. It doesn't matter. Even people that are spiritual and they're on this spiritual, it's
still making up fucking stories.
It's story.
And we all do it.
Yeah, it's you attach yourself to an identity and you go, hey world, this is me. But then behind that identity, there's something else there which you're not prepared to look at, right? And I'm not saying everyone is like that, but there was actually a study done, right, where what came back in the study is 0.03% of the world is vibrationally ready to look inward.
Wow.
0.03%, right?
I've always said the world's 97% conscious and 3% unconscious.
So, So that out of that
Other way
0.03, it's actually worse because out of that 0.03%, there's 3% that actually do something about it.
Wow.
So it's such a tiny, like I'm talking about the real work. The real
like
work.
not just going to yoga, like not actually dealing with your shit.
Exactly. Yeah. And so this is what I've sort of uncovered in my journey and this is what the Bullshit Machine, the podcast, is all about, is that when you hear people say, I'm working on it, or I have to fix this, or I have to work on this, or whatever, if I have clients that come to me and say, I want to work on this, I'll say, you are full of shit, because there's nothing you need to work on. There's nothing you need to fix, because ultimately you're just biding time to really look at what's really going on.
I have to. As soon as someone says I have to, well, why aren't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, like what people don't understand is when people are working on their stuff or, oh, that's something that I've been working on this year, I'm just like, ugh, it's not fucking true. Like it's bullshit. You are not working on shit. All you're doing is you're hovering around the same fucking problem and you're trying to find different ways of picking it apart. It's like, no, I'll work on it this way, I'll work on it that way. It's like, why work on it? Like, it's the same thing. A lot of my clients have, we all have a lot of childhood wounds,
And that's the thing, everyone does. Like, it's not as if someone's bruised and this person's bruised. We all have shit.
We all have shit. Everyone has a wound when, they were children, and even kids more so, who have had parents that are like, right, I'm going to look after these kids. I'm going to shelter them from all the bad. Like those kids are more fucked up than anyone, And so where I was going with it is that the key is not to work on or to heal your childhood stuff. It's not even the really, like I have clients that have had some real drastic stuff happen in their childhood, right? And of course I'm empathetic and I feel for them. But when you really go deep into it, what it is that if they work on trying to heal it and massage it and this, they're just wasting their life and they're going to get to the end of their life and go, ugh, what a fucking waste.
Yeah, why didn't I just deal with that and
exactly.
move on?
So what works for me and what works for the way I deliver it to my clients and on my podcast is that it's not about trying to heal old wounds or anything. It's about going, okay, I'm wounded and accepting it, right? And surrendering to it and saying, yep, I am wounded, I'm a victim, and that's all great, and so is everyone else, right? And you notice that woundedness and the scars that you got from that. And then you just literally bring it to the light and you're like, yep, I am wounded. And then you go, what is it that I want to create? And then using the tension or using the power from that woundedness to drive you forward, to propel you forward into your vision or what you actually want to create.
Yeah, so kind of accept it, embrace it, let it go in a way. Like it's still always going to be there, but you just kind of got to accept it, surrender it, and then move forward.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier, like you get a lot of dudes.
A lot of dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're just not that, spiritual dude that's sitting there. You are a dude. So,
I'm a dude, yeah. I mean, I just think back to when I was coming into this sort of world and, I'd see healers that are wearing their drapes and they've got their little thing on their third eye. And I'm not saying it's bad because it's great and there is need for that. And there is chakras, there is energy systems, and I see those and I know about those because I work with them every day. But in order to get results from, and especially dudes, they don't want to go see someone who's going to sit there going, hey man, your third eye is a bit foggy. They don't care.
Your chakra is aligned. Yeah, hello.
I know. Chakra. So it's not, I don't want, even now that I have all this knowledge and experience, even now I like the meat and potatoes. It's like, dude, yeah, maybe you've got some stuff going on here. It's a little bit. Basically, what it means is your creativity is totally off, and you know this is what's happening with you. And then I just basically do the same thing, but in a meat and potatoes way, and then I get really deep into the underlying assumption or the underlying belief of what dudes and women have about themselves, and then we bring that to the surface, and then we just go for what we actually want to create.
And how did you tap into that? Like, when was the day that you were sitting there and you're like, shit, I'm a healer? Like, what was that tipping point for you where, like, I want to do this as a job? Yeah.
Well, it's not like I wanted to. I just, no joke, fell into it. Like, it started happening where the more I started doing this type of work, and especially after I did my Reiki training, for example, I'd be in a cafe and I'd be standing next to someone ordering a coffee, and I just
feel something.
Yeah, and I'd be like, wow, what the heck? And then I started getting like actual stories coming through, right, about other people and what's happening with them, and I'd just be sitting there going, wow,
yeah, am I going crazy here?
Yeah, totally. And then so I wanted to sort of put this stuff to the test, or maybe expand it. So I would spend days on end going to like just my local cafe in Elwood, and I'd, no joke, sit there with a piece of paper and a pen, and I would look at a family and write about each of them, about what's going on with them. And I didn't know whether it was right, whether it was wrong.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So I just sit there writing, you know, the creepy guy in the corner, right? writing about people.
Got your guitar or something to make it.
Yeah, and so I'd write about them, and I just didn't know whether it was true or not. And then I started, and then out of the blue, I had no clients or anything, but out of the blue, this girl who used to be a fan of Duke Cartel saw some of the things that I've been posting, whatever. She's like, oh, can I come and see you? And I said, yeah. And she goes, well, how much do you charge? I said,
you were like, oh, yeah, what? Yeah, this has suddenly just turned into a business shit.
I know, and I'm like, okay. So she's like, how much do you charge? And I said, blah.
You're like, $5, yeah.
I know. And then she's like, okay, cool, get me in. Then we came, and I think I spent like 4 hours with her.
Wow.
And I was like, fuck, this is exhausting. And then in that 4 hours,
your own energy, huh?
Yeah, but in that 4 hours, we did everything under the sun. But anyway, so she started seeing me regularly, and then she told people, and then they told people, and then before I knew it, I was seeing like 15, 20 people a week, and I'm going, wow, crazy. And then now I've been able to get all my knowledge and everything that I know, and usually within an hour and 15 minutes, it's like we just get to the underlying what's going on intuitively. As soon as I see someone walking down that path to the healing room, I'm like, I know exactly what's going on. It's just going to be it's just going to be a case of me getting you to the place where you can actually receive it.
So you can feel that from just being in someone's presence.
Yeah.
So we have this. Oh, I know. I'm going to ask you. Don't worry. So you have a podcast recently about intuition, and so on the podcast you intuitively spoke to 3 people that you'd never met before.
Yeah.
None of them. You knew nothing about them.
Nothing.
And it was all over the phone.
Yeah.
And everything that you said for these 4 people was spot on.
Yeah.
And that was just by being on the phone. Mm-hmm. It's like, how do you tap in? All right, do it for me then.
Wait, no. I'll tell you how I
How do you do that? Like, how can everyone do that, or are you just very special?
No. I mean, everyone has that gift. There's no.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, everyone just has that gift, right?
They were like bang on. They were all, every single one of them was like, "You are so right, Tommy. Like, there's nothing that you said that wasn't right."
Yeah. So I mean, look, everyone has that gift, and there's a difference, right? The difference is whether you are open to exploring that gift, or whether you're the type of person that goes, "No, I'm not that person," right? And so there's that choice that you get. But ultimately, for me, I guess I was brave enough to go deeper in it, and it's like riding a bike, right? Like the more you do it, the better you get at it, and yeah, so what happens is it's a process. It's not like you got to turn it on, right? You got to get into the zone and whatever else, and then I just never question it, and I'm just never fucking wrong.
And I think that's because you trust yourself.
Totally.
Like that's you. Yeah, you actually believe in what you're saying. Like you trust what you're saying, and you don't have any doubts.
No,
because that's where our shit comes from. Is that I want to have one question. What's the difference between ego and intuition? It's a hard one.
Big difference, yeah.
Like, how do people know if it's their ego or intuition?
It's a really good question, and it took me a long time to uncover it. But the difference between ego and intuition, right, is that when you're in your intuition, you're creating life from your greatness, right? So you're creating life, and when you're creating life from greatness, there's a sense in the body where you're like, it's like you can physically feel it in the heart, back of the shoulders. You get goosebumps or whatever else, right? That's when you're in your intuition, right? When you're in your ego, there's this sense, and you just can't question it, because when you're creating life from ego, you feel it in the body. The shoulders are up. You're a little bit tense. You're like, oh, nah. And even with ego, you know that you're creating from the ego if it's something that you feel like you've done before.
Interesting. Okay.
Because every single thing when we're creating out of ego, we're creating from past experience, that we're creating out of a past hurt or past scars or past experiences. So with the ego, you feel in the body that it's not really that free.
Yeah, it's very heavy, or it's like it's angry, or it's yelling at you, or like.
And you almost, when you're creating out of ego, you almost know what the outcome's going to be. Pretty much.
You're not living from your highest.
Yeah, and you're either in defensive, or it's just not exciting. And intuition, when you tap into intuition, it has a sense of total uncertainty. Intuition has this sense of like, I have no idea how this is going to work out.
But fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway.
Exactly. And that's where, if you study or you have a look at the most incredible people, whether they're in business or whether they're in whatever field they're in, every single one of them will tell you that they will all have one thing in common, and they will all tell you that they've mastered the art of listening to their intuitive sense, or their intuition.
And I think that's, as humans, like that's when we've made it. Like when we can literally just trust our intuition and follow that path.
Yep. So I reckon if you can be in your intuition 55% of your life, it's a pretty good life you got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's open the door and say, I don't know what you're going to say here.
Yeah.
And anyway, all right, intuitively, tell me about me. And you don't really know me, so...
No, I don't at all.
No.
No. Yeah, okay. Do you really want me to do this?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't know either.
You're probably going to make me cry.
Well, look, up to you.
Yeah, go.
Yeah?
We can always, chop it if we don't want to.
Yeah,
we won't.
Cool.
But...
All right. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, cool. So what I get about you, right, is that there's this really, honestly, there's this really fun, awesome part of you, right, which is just full of energy, full of joy, and when you're in that, it's a fucking cool thing, because you just get shit done, and it actually happens, right?
Yep.
But behind, I'm not saying that that's a mask, but what's happening behind that in your total, in the underlying part of that, right, is that there's this real sense of it's not like you don't have any idea what you're doing, but there's this sense that every single time something really, really cool happens with you, you always find a way to fuck it up.
Always.
Every time.
Yep, absolutely.
And, sorry, because, yeah, I just sometimes cry. Oh, it's cool. No, I mean that's what happens, and this is something that I've got to, take ownership of. Is that when I feel someone quite deeply, it happens every time. Well, not every time, but sometimes. Anyway, so yeah, with you fucking things up all the time, right? It's that it just comes back to this thing that that underneath everything, right? You just don't. And usually when I cry, it is because there's quite a bit of sadness that you're tucking away, right?
I've spent 10 years trying to deal with that sadness.
Yeah, and that sadness has got nothing else to do with anything other than it's almost like you have to go back to whatever the experience was that started that shit, right? And then if you go back to not that experience, but the experience before that, right? Then I think you might be able to uncover that when it's got to do with the men in your life and the sorry. So the men that you and unfortunately what happens is that you do create great men in your life, right? You feel because you don't feel like that you're worthy or you're deserving of a genuine partnership where it's equal level, right? And this would come back to something to do with your dad, right? And there's like there's just a real pain there. There's a real sadness and real pain. And the way that you deal with it is you deal with it in a way where you put this mask on where nothing affects you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And people have that perception of me, like, oh yeah, she's mousy, don't worry, she'll be fine.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then what's going to start happening with you over the coming 6 months is that as you start to do a little bit more digging, right, you really are going to find a way to bring yourself back into your to your true calling of what you're here to do. But that's going to scare the shit out of you because people are going to really start to fall away. And those
they already have.
Yeah. But even more so on a deeper level, like a lot of people are going to fall away, right? And when I see you in social interactions, I just see you talking, but I underneath it, you're just going, oh, I've just had this conversation so many fucking times, and can you just fucking get out of my face? So, and yeah, so the ultimate thing for you is not to heal any pain, as I said before, but the ultimate thing for you is pretty much to just stamp your foot and just be like, I'm doing this. Like, actually go for what you want to go for, And I'd have to spend a little bit more time with you to really get underneath it. But ultimately what it comes down to is one of your underlying beliefs about yourself is that if I'm going to enjoy my life on my terms, it means that the people I love the most are going to leave me or abandon me.
It's very true. Yeah.
So that's where your pain is, biatch.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yeah, okay.
I 100% agree with you with everything you said.
And there's a lot more there.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, but it's I guess for the purposes of this thing, I fucking cry like that.
I love it though.
It's the dudes that be looking at this going, what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
No, because that's what makes it, like, crying's fine. Why do girls only cry? Like, why can't guys cry?
No, I definitely cry. I'm a crier. But I think it just happens when I tap into someone else. And I just feel I feel their pain. So it's like an empathic thing. But then, I can take the pain that I'm feeling from someone else to... and that's what I use in my healings. When I put someone on the bed, I use that pain And it's not about getting rid of the pain, it's about transmuting the pain to power, you know, and just and showing people. And that's where I do some really cool energy work where, you know, you move stuff around, you get the pain and you transmute it, heart, you know, kidneys, whatever else. So
is that releasing the pain, or is that just moving it around?
it's moving it around, it's releasing, but mostly it's transmuting. So because I know a lot of healers, what they do is they try and get rid of pain. So you'll see a lot of healers going, you know, like flicking pain off the body or whatever. But that's actually like, it's almost like everything's energy. So it's almost like a garbage dump back into the world. And I don't like doing that. So what I try and do is get the pain, but keep it there, use that tension, but at the same point, you know, transmute it into power and into joy and happiness. Yeah.
You're amazing, Tommy. You are. Really, it's amazing, and I just love what you're doing. I love that you're so connected to humans, especially to males as well. Like, which males are a little bit scared still to open up. They're getting there, but you know, myself, like I've tried to go on a healing journey for 10 years, and all the stuff that you've just said, I already know a lot of that, and I still aren't healed, you know, and I try and do everything I can. But, you know, that's where people need to come and see you on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, so, I mean, what I do now, the way that I work my business now is usually, you know, one session is hard to get everything out, you know, but I usually just say to people, come for one session and then see how you feel after, you know. And you know what, people just want Reiki and they don't want to know about their shit. That's fine too. Well, I won't even go there, you know, but 99% of the time, it just comes out. It just has to.
And this is what people are doing. Like a lot of people don't talk about it because people don't want to hear about it. So, you know, even half of your friends are already going to healers, but you might know about it because it's not mainstream yet.
Well, but the other thing also is I've been to many healers, you know, all over the world. And even then, unfortunately, what happens is, even if they're an amazing healer, if people don't understand what's happening, they're just not going to get the benefit. And if 97 or 99% of the world has no idea about energy work, or they don't feel it, or they don't know it, then they're not going to know what's happening. You know, I mean, even if you went to a healer at the top of the Himalayas, and it's this guy that's like, hello, welcome to my healer. I'm the best healer in the world. Yeah, he will do his thing. It'll be fucking amazing. But you will walk out and he will go, hey, one more thing, do the fucking work.
Yes, and I think that's what everyone needs to do, the work. What do you think is the work though? Like obviously it's different for everybody.
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's the same for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's a blanket thing, and this is just my interpretation of it. I believe that the work is very simple. It's like uncover what it is that you're here to do, and that's where a lot of people go wrong, because they go, oh, I don't know what I want to do. Maybe I'll do yoga. Maybe I'll do this. Oh, that's right. No, I'll run workshops for men. You know, like that's the thing. Like people don't know. Oh no, I'll be this, or I'll be. Oh no, I'm going to be an actor. You know, it's like, yeah, cool, but is that really in line with who you are? Or are you doing it? Are you creating out of ego or not? Right. So I feel like that the work first off is uncovering what it is that you're here to do, right? And once you uncover what it is that you're here to do, you choose to make that part of your daily grind, right? And you have the courage to say no to that job. You have the courage to go out into the wilderness and go into full uncertainty. And the work is being in uncertainty, following your intuition, and just slaying dragons.
But how do you do that? Like if you say, why am I here to do? Like what can people do to find that?
Well, exactly. And that's something that you either, I mean, I believe that everyone needs a coach, right? Because even if your coach hasn't got all their shit worked out, which they don't, you know. But each person, everyone, if they've got a coach that they're going to see once a week, once a month, whatever it is, that these coaches know you better than you know yourself. You know, especially if it's someone great, you know, that can read you, they know what's going on with you, whatever. Then using the coach to uncover what your gifts are and whatever. And this can be done very, very quickly, like within one session. Wow. You uncover your gifts, whatever it is that you're here to do. And then it's up to you whether you do it or you don't. Yeah. You know, and it's fine. If you choose not to, totally cool. But fucking choose it.
And what do you mean by coach? Like a healer?
Yeah, like a healer, like me. Like, I mean, I've got all my clients, I have different types. Some people just want Reiki. Other guys I see once a week and they're just like full coaching. I've got clients over in the US. I've got clients in Europe. So
Incredible.
You know, it's like just choose who you resonate with and choose, you know, maybe once a month, once a week.
Stick to that one person.
Exactly. And whatever you can. And then, I mean, look, you could do maybe 6 months with one person and then go off and try someone else. Like, you'll know. Like, I've had clients that have gone, do you know what? This has been awesome, but I don't need you anymore. I'm like, awesome.
Good. Yeah. Give me a hug. Yeah.
Totally.
You can go off into the world.
Great.
Yeah.
You know, and then they choose a different healer or a coach who's going to take them to the next level. But that's where if you know how to do it, then do it. Like, you can read books, you can watch YouTube videos, how do I get what I want, whatever. Like, it's just all there, you know.
Intuitive listening.
Yeah.
See what it says.
Yeah. But look, there's more and more of us that are here to empower, because the world needs it, you know. Like you, me, we're all here to in our own way to just let people see who they really are. That's all we're here to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it, you know. And then when we can lose our mask and not pretend and not, you know, and just be and just fucking get it done. Just is what it is. And look, the worst possible case scenario, and I say this in my yoga classes, and because what I do sometimes in my yoga classes is I take people through a flow and they're absolutely wrecked, right? And all I want to do is go to child's pose. I'm like, stay in your fucking downward dog. Like, I literally tell them, I'm like, if you come down as a child's pose now, I guarantee you that when you're in life and you're coming up to a challenge, you're gonna just crumble and go down. So I get people to use the tension after when they're like, oh my God, no more, to find that power to stay.
Yeah, it's really good for them.
Yeah. So having that courage to actually look deep within and just to go and get it done.
Well, Tommy, you're amazing.
So are you.
Thank you. Like, he's amazing and you need to go see him because, I mean, here I am, open raw. I just told you half the shit about me that, you know, that's probably only about this much. But,
just a little bit.
You know, there's so many things out there and I'm here to just be open and I want everyone else to be open as well because, you know, we've all got shit to deal with. We've all had shit in our childhood. We all mask it by trying to be happy or, you know, with drugs or alcohol or whatever else it is, like I did for 10 years. But you know what? Let's just lay it on the line and just be who we want to be in this world because that's, I think, the most important thing that we can possibly do. So if you do want to see more videos like this, we've got more people like Tommy. There's plenty more healers and we're starting in Melbourne and we will eventually branch out to Sydney. And you need to come see someone like Tommy because he can tell you things about yourself that maybe you're suppressing and you don't really know. So, Tommy, give me a hug. You're a legend, and thank you. That was awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers,
See you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.